Welcome to Reclaiming Vitality, a video series dedicated to helping high achieving women to break free from burnout and reconnect with their energy, confidence, and joy. I am your host, Dr. Onna Lo, an Ivy League trained physician, functional and integrative medicine doctor, and high performance coach. This show is designed for women who are ready to take charge of their health and stop settling for feeling exhausted, dismissed, and not quite feeling themselves. So, in this final episode of our Midlife Hormone series, we're talking about something that is just as important as treatment itself, the foundation. Hormones can absolutely be part of the conversation, but they're not the whole conversation. If we want women to truly feel strong, clear, and well in midlife and beyond, we have to look at the full picture. Nutrition, metabolism, muscle mass, stress, sleep, and daily choices that protect long-term health. I'm joined once again by Dr. Amy Hawkins, a licensed naturopathic doctor and North American Menopause Society certified practitioner based in North Carolina. Her work is grounded in helping women see the full picture of their health and build a step-by-step guide that supports real change over time. Welcome back, Dr. Amy. So today
Thank you,
we're going to
Dr.
talk
Lo.
about what it actually looks like to care for your brain, your heart, and your bones, and the entire hormone system, and how to create a strong foundation for thriving perimenopausal and postmenopausal years. Let's chat, Dr. Hawkins.
All right, let's go. What a beautiful and comprehensive introduction. I love it.
Yeah, well, we've been doing
Thank
it.
you for
Yeah.
that.
Well, we already talked
Thank you for
about
that.
bioidentical hormones. We talked about
Hmm.
the symptoms of perimenopause and what to
Yep.
expect, the unexpected. We've talked about why it's become so popular and really who are the ones who might be candidates. But that's not the whole conversation, and that's really your expertise, right? So, what are the most important foundations that every woman needs to hear about in this phase when they're like, "Hey, I do have the symptoms. I am going through this perimenopause and I'm getting to that stage. What else should I be thinking about?"
Yeah, so excellent question. There's so much that we see online, especially in social media. I mean, it's such a huge conversation now, and it can get really overwhelming and seem very complicated. So I like to break it down into just three big categories. So the first one is blood sugar and overall nutrition, balancing that nutrition throughout the day. And then second is movement and muscle mass, which is absolutely essential for a healthy metabolism. And then third is sleep and stress management. Sorry, stress management, because those two come together. They're so important and so dependent on each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the breakdown and they're so important. Let's talk about the blood sugar balance matter first. Why is it important at this stage?
Well, so when our blood sugar is dysregulated, well, first of all, we tend to go into more of a dysregulated state as we're transitioning through perimenopause and into, menopause, postmenopause, et cetera. So we're at higher risk for developing metabolic syndrome, which is, also known as prediabetes, diabetes, et cetera. So that's where you hear the whole thing online, oh, my metabolism is slowing down. It's not so much that, it's more that your blood sugar is possibly becoming a little dysregulated. And this is a combination of factors. It's because of the hormonal shifts that are happening. It's usually also because women in our stage of life are juggling a lot, right? It's usually a pretty high stress phase of life. We're in that sandwich generation period where we're often caring for aging parents, we're caring for our kids still, we might have some testy teens. Our careers are usually at the height of their, busyness, I'll say. And so we're really juggling a lot. So our stress is kind of high, which will mess with our cortisol, usually raise our cortisol, which impacts our blood sugar balance. So it adds to the issues going on with the hormonal shifts. And then we bring in, because of how busy we are and because of this, fast-paced life that we live in our country, we tend to not make the best dietary choices, right? Women might be skipping breakfast, they might be eating, mostly carbs, not getting enough protein or healthy fats. And so all of those things are blending together to contribute to blood sugar highs and lows, which is so when you hear the term blood sugar dysregulation, what we're talking about is women who are on that blood sugar roller coaster. So, they eat a big meal and then their blood sugar goes really high. So then they have an exaggerated insulin response, which makes their insulin tank really low, which causes cravings, which results in usually eating too many carbs, and then your blood sugar goes high again. So you end up on this roller coaster where blood sugar regulation, like a very healthy blood sugar balance, is you're going to have highs and lows, but it's more like the Appalachian Mountains and less like the Himalayas, right? So that's the goal. And so when we have that additional stress of those blood sugar fluctuations, it's both caused by the hormonal fluctuations, but it also worsens the hormonal fluctuations that we have in perimenopause. So, yeah, what's your take on that?
Yeah, well, it's a vicious cycle. That's what you're saying, right? Like, is it the stress that makes me have cravings? And then my cravings, succumbing to it, then I, end up just say, screw it. I'm just gonna have whatever's I have in the house and I'll just eat it, right? Like last night I just went with my kids fried rice, and that's something that I don't normally eat.
Yeah.
And then I don't feel too good, right? I don't sleep very well and I wake up and I'm tired again, and you just start that vicious cycle, and then your body reacts, and then your body has then says, well, you suddenly have this high. So when you have the low, your body says, well, maybe you need to eat again. So it just, you go into this cycle of, being triggered with cravings because of stress, but also when you succumb to that change in blood sugar, your body then respond and actually go takes you continuously on this roller cycle. Funny
Right.
enough, I actually started wearing a CGM, and I think a lot of women probably hears about, right, continuous glucose monitoring, because it's so easy to get. You put it
Yeah.
on and it allows you then to look at what you eat and how it affects your blood
Mhm.
sugar. And I think that it, even for myself, as I am myself going through this period of hormonal change, I realized that compared to all the previous times that I've used it,
Mhm.
it's I just have less resilience. Even those good
Yeah.
habits I used to have used to take
Yeah.
me to very different numbers that looks much healthier now. Um,
Mhm.
Even the same habits, I might not have the same resilience. So that's what I would say. This hormonal stage actually shift how I have to be even more intentional
Yeah.
around my diets. And there's more challenges, like you say, because we're right in that sandwich generation where we still have a lot of distractions and competing interests that makes us make different choices that aren't
Yep.
always as intentional. So, so there are some simple tips and tricks I assume that you would share to your patients about, well, what do you do? What are some key ways when you say I'm ready to rebalance and kind of create some Appalachian mountains instead of Alps, right?
Yeah.
Into your blood sugar balance, what would be the top three tips that you recommend?
Well, so, we hear about protein, 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 right? And that is my kind of first recommendation, but along with you know, also first recommendation is to commit to eating breakfast. So many women are skipping breakfast, running out the door, getting the kids to school or running off to work, and just, and then also sometimes women are toying with intermittent fasting, seeing if that's a good answer for them. So find a lot of women who come to work with me are skipping breakfast. And so it's focus on protein and make sure you're having protein at breakfast time. So I always tell women to aim for a minimum of 20, ideally more like 30 grams of protein at breakfast. But I also focus a lot on fiber. So, we hear again, there's so much conversation on social media. It mostly focuses on protein, 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 but fiber is really, really essential too. So, fiber and, good fiber comes from veggies, fruits, whole grains, beans. And so fiber really slows down that blood sugar response. So when you have a good amount of fiber in your diet, I always recommend that women aim for a minimum of 25 grams a day. That really helps to stabilize your blood sugar, especially if you eat it at the beginning of a meal. And in that case, I always recommend the veggies at the beginning of the meal. So vegetable-based fiber at the beginning of each meal. Um, and then sleep, so that kind of crosses into the stress management piece. Sleep is so important for blood sugar regulation. Those are probably my top three step one recommendations that I always give women to start.
I love it. I agree too. For me, breakfast especially in the conversation of intermittent fasting, I always remind intermittent fasting can happen in the evening, right? You can stop
Exactly.
eating earlier and
Hmm.
actually then have a really fulfilling breakfast right when your cortisol naturally goes up, right when you have to get to the day. Like that's a great
Hmm.
place to just eat a nice big breakfast. So
Yeah.
what is your favorite recommendation of a breakfast that is high protein and high fiber that like hits, does the job?
Well, I mean, I personally am okay with eggs. It just depends like you're on your dietary sensitivities or preferences, but I like to have a couple of eggs, a couple of, chicken sausages, and then a big bowl of blueberries, and that really works for me. I also am a big fan of overnight oats, which, I'll usually add protein powder to that, and then chia pudding I find to be really high in fiber, high in protein, but usually you have to add a little protein powder to that too. So yeah, it's all about that protein and fiber gain in the morning. How about
Yeah.
you?
I grew up in Asia, so I love a salty breakfast. So in many
Yeah.
ways, it's just dinner for breakfast is my thing. I often
Oh
like to
yeah.
just, like imagine it's just dinner time and you have your full spread. I really like smoked salmon,
Hmm.
and I do like I have a CSA veggie box, so I just love, steaming or sauteing some greens, dark green,
Hmm.
greens like mustard greens or kale. Um, and with garlic and that's often that feels really filling.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I feel like berries is a nice treat,
Yeah,
so
yeah. Yeah, I have to say the big veggie scramble, that's my Saturday morning thing when I have the time for, chopping everything up. And I mean, yeah, a big veggie scramble with just, one or two eggs mixed in. I love it. That's definitely my favorite breakfast. And if I had time every day for that, that's
yeah.
definitely the best. That's the
I
healthiest choice.
When I was going through med school, actually what I would do is I would wake up and I would actually just throw two eggs into the water and just boil it while I'm getting ready, and then I would eat it with a bowl of like miso soup. And it's not, interesting, it's not up to the 20 grams of protein, but it's a good start
Yep.
if you just in a rush, right? Like you just want
Good
to
point.
start with something, and it
Good
takes
point.
time. I think also like often you get these like nutrition recommendations that are like do this and that's the ideal, but it takes time. Like just eat a
Hmm.
breakfast. Like if it means,
Yeah.
hey, overnight oats, it means like, even just eating, a muffin, whatever it is, just start eating
Hmm.
breakfast. And then once you
Hmm.
have that habit, then say, okay, what can I add? Can I just add a big slab of almond butter or peanut butter into my, muffin to make it more protein, focused?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
eventually shifting it out. Like I think there's so much room to just gently, it's a 30-year process. Like we don't have
Yeah.
to have it perfect today, and I think
Yeah.
that's often what really stresses women who are already stressed out and be like, now I have to
Hmm.
do this other thing, to
Hmm.
just start being like, start eating breakfast, start adding a little bit more protein and fat, start a little
Yeah.
bit of fiber, start
Yeah.
thinking about like, does it feel good when I eat this food? Like
Hmm.
that's probably those
Yeah.
important foundations. Yeah.
Yeah. And I often will tell women to, collagen powder is really helpful in the morning, and it's so easy to your morning coffee or your morning tea. It just disintegrates. You can't even taste it. It completely disappears. And you can easily get another 10 or 20 grams of protein, just added to your morning beverage if you need to, if you're in a pinch, because eggs really only have about 5 to 6 grams of protein per egg. And then, what's a tablespoon of peanut butter or almond butter? Maybe 3 to 5, depending on how rounded your tablespoon is, 3 to 5
Yeah.
grams of protein. So, you can just kind of count it up. And in the beginning, yeah, it's a little bit of a learning process. But once it becomes a habit, you can
Yeah.
add it up really quickly and easily in your morning.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
I
want to
love
circle back.
Well, I
Sorry,
was
you first.
gonna, you started talking about hacks, right? Now I'm like, I want to talk about hack, right? So another one for women who are just being like, well, I get hungry, if I have oats, like 2 hours later, I get hungry. So I actually sometimes in the beginning, as you're just starting to get used to just eating a small amount, but you want it to last until lunch, I would be like, just a little teaspoon of MCT oil, which is actually what is a coconut oil based, middle chain, triglyceride oil that actually also helps you burn your energy more efficiently. um,
Hmm.
so there are little ways, but I mean, of course, it's about whole foods first, but there
Yeah.
are little support. You are allowed to cheat and have support so that you can get to that goal of really just be like, what makes my blood sugar feel balanced? And that downstream helps with your brain. You're less irritable. You don't have that pang of hunger. Right. Sorry, you were gonna
Yeah.
say something.
No, so good. That's such a good tip. I want to circle back to you mentioned your CGM. So I use a CGM as well, a continuous glucose monitor. And, those originally were intended for people with diabetes who needed that continuous glucose monitoring to dose their insulin and, stay safe. But they're a great tool that's available over the counter. You don't need a prescription now to get one. It doesn't have as wide of a range as the prescription version, but you can get a very useful one just, purchasing it yourself. And I find they're an excellent tool to even just use short term. Like I'll often tell women in my practice, let's just do it for 1 month, get two, each one lasts 2 weeks. Do it for a month. See how different dietary choices and different movement patterns are impacting your blood sugar and just learn. It's such great, like instant feedback. It sends a continuous glucose reading to your phone and puts it on your little line graph. And it's such a great tool for women. It's really eye-opening. And you just do that 1 month, learn some new habits, and then keep those habits going. And then usually I'll do it again like quarterly just to check in on myself, see how I'm doing. And I often recommend that for my clients as well. So it doesn't have to be complicated. It's a learning process, right? Nothing's going to change overnight. It's just shifting those habits little by little in a very steady and sustainable way. That's
Yeah.
going to be the most
Well, often
successful.
the complaint is, right, weight gain, right? People will be like, I just started gaining weight and I can't get it losing, or I'm just sleep is poor, or I'm irritable. And I
Mhm.
find that if just having the CGM working with my patients and just seeing that data, what we track, we can change, you actually just be able to tweak that in real time with your own diet, food that you like, right? And then shifting it accordingly, you can actually have results in all those areas. And so I really love this tool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's go
yeah.
into the next topic, right? We started under the blood sugar and nutrition. Um,
Mhm.
let's talk about the movement and muscle mass. Like why is it an important foundation?
Yeah, I mean, if we keep it super simple, muscle mass is your muscle is your blood sugar sponge, right?
Yeah.
So the more muscle mass you have, the more you're going to be able to effortlessly regulate your blood sugar, basically, right? So that's one aspect of why it's so important. And then, just that sets you at a higher baseline metabolic rate if you have more muscle mass. But then it goes beyond that. So maintaining our muscle mass and building muscle mass also builds strong bones because bones are stimulated to, stay dense basically. They get more dense earlier in life, but we're talking about the perimenopausal and postmenopausal years. So we're going to tell our bones to stay strong if muscles are pulling on them more. So there's more demand on that bone. It tells that bone it needs to stay thick and strong and dense, right? So it's going to slow down the rate of the loss of bone mineral density in your perimenopausal and postmenopausal years. And then also it just keeps you strong, right? So as we age, if we maintain that muscle mass and also, of course, maintain that balance and flexibility, we're going to be less likely to have a fall. We're going to be less likely to have an injury. And so it just sets you up for not only a better metabolism now, probably, less weight gain and just feeling more comfortable in your body, feeling just stronger and able to keep doing what you want to do, but to keep doing what you want to do for many decades to come. So. What
Absolutely.
would you add to that?
Well, you're right. The muscle mass and the bone mass is such an important topic. And I think that experientially at this age where we're just have so much going on, we just forget joyful movement, right? This is an
Yeah.
opportunity to say when we're still able to start learn, like I picked up tennis, during
Hmm.
COVID, and I still not that good at it. I'm going at a very slow improvement linear stage, but I'm thinking about it as something that I can do over the course of the next 20 years. And
Yeah.
it takes time for us to learn something new, to get in our body. So if it means like pick up something that you can start reconnecting your body and kind
Hmm.
of, like build this new like trajectory. Right. Like I think the perimenopausal years is a reminder that we still got another stage of life ahead of us. And what would that
Hmm.
look like if we're going to start having movement being a very intentional reintroduction or commitment to.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so it goes hands in hands because the joy of movement is such a powerful, stress management tool. And I know
Yeah.
that's a third topic that you talked about too, right? Like
Yeah.
stress and sleep is now like the third most important foundation. So how
Yeah.
do counsel patients, or why is it important in the perimenopausal years?
So, if there was one thing I could tell myself, my 35-year-old self, I would say, girl, go to bed, please. The more sleep, the better. So, sleep and stress management go hand in hand because so many of us are not getting the 8 hours of sleep that we need. They say 7 to 8 hours, but I'd say, closer to eight is better. Nine is, I mean, amazing if you can accomplish that. But if we're not getting enough sleep, we're not giving our cells time to basically take out the trash, right? So much detoxification, so much happens in our sleep. Basically, think about it like throughout the day, you're getting kind of worn down. All these biochemical processes are going on, and there's a lot of waste product from that, and there's a lot of, cells that are dividing and a lot of DNA activity going on. And so nighttime, when you're sleeping and your growth hormone is released, then that's when everything can go through and be repaired. All the repair happens, all the restoration happens. And so that is so important from that standpoint. But then also, going back to the cortisol piece and the stress management piece, if you aren't getting good sleep, then you're going to have higher cortisol levels likely at night and higher cortisol levels in the morning, which is going to impact your blood sugar, which is going to impact your reproductive hormones, which is, so it's a bit of a domino effect. And then ironically, when our hormones are shifting, we have a harder time getting good quality sleep, right? So it's really becoming a big focus area in perimenopause and menopause treatment to really, really laser focus on optimizing sleep. And so obviously, I work a lot with women on what we collectively refer to as sleep hygiene. So, having that really good bedtime routine, making sure your room is pitch black dark, making sure you don't have a glowing green alarm clock on your bedside table. So, just setting yourself up for success and just having that evening wind down. And there's so many things, like avoiding blue light for 1 hour before bed. There's so many things we can do to really optimize that sleep. There's herbal therapies, there's magnesium, obviously progesterone, but that was the conversation we already had. All these things can help with sleep. So, you want to do what you can to really, really support your sleep because then it makes everything else work better as well, right?
Absolutely.
So, what's your take on that?
I was thinking about what's my top three, right? Like suggestions. I love what you
Hmm.
say. It's actually just someone telling you go to bed. Like there's no if, ands, or buts. Like not going to bed and not sleeping at least 7 hours. There's no way of losing weight. I know that like often, that's usually one of the biggest pain points is it's
Hmm.
hard to once you gain that 5 pounds every few years, it's hard to get it back. If you do not sleep more than 7 hours or more, a minimum every day, it's not possible to lose weight. That's just how our body recovers. Um,
Hmm.
and so just knowing that, going to bed, no one else is going to tell you except for yourself. And actually, the second, I find the three most helpful is really pitch dark rooms because light pollution or light over stimulation is a thing from us, especially working on the screen or just like we rarely are in dark environments. The second one is
Hmm.
actually having a really cool bedroom, giving
Yeah.
permission to just have a fan, just giving permission to have a lower temperature. It really
Hmm.
does make a difference.
Yeah.
And then the third one is, I think it is about moving any distractions, having the phone right there. So at 4 in the morning, if you woke up and you're like, is there an option to actually just click on that, see what time, and all of a sudden it's so bright and you are like, well,
Hmm.
someone just texted you, right? Then it just gets you going again. So having
Yeah.
all forms of screen and distractions, charge your
Yeah.
phone outside.
Yeah.
um, for a while I actually have a timer for my Wi-Fi, and that has really worked for a lot of my patients. Is just to like turn off the Wi-Fi for
Hmm.
the day in the household, so that you actually don't have access. Right? Oh, it's 10 o'clock. There's no more Wi-Fi, no more Netflix, and you just have
Hmm.
to kind of go do something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good. All good. Those are all great tools. What were you about to say? Sorry, go
Well,
ahead.
I was going to talk about, right? You touched upon this so important. It's like, well, when you don't sleep, you don't repair, which in some ways is that next phase, which is longevity health, which is really like what is the best thing we can take for women, right? After the 40s into their 50s, 60s, 70s is really about taking care of our health. So in the long term, what are the key areas that we're really thinking about, right? When we're talking about hormones, there is the benefit. But in the
Mhm.
foundation of what we're doing, there is also benefit. But what are the key areas are we really thinking about to focus in?
Yeah. Yeah. So we're working on improving our health and, resolving our symptoms now, but the long game is really focused on, my mantra I told you earlier is brain, heart, bones, right? Brain, heart, bones, brain, heart, bones. You want to protect your cognitive function. You want to protect your cardiovascular system, so prevent cardiovascular disease, and you want to protect your bones, so maintain that bone mineral density, prevent osteoporosis, osteopenia, etc. So those are my three focus areas. Are those yours
Yeah,
as
those
well?
are mine, and I know I sneaked in one more, which is sex, right? It's really also
That's
about
right.
sex,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then when I think about sexual life, it's also about just that sensuality, the appetite for life, right?
Mhm.
You it could be with or without a partner, right? It's really about how we feel in our body and just that desire, right? When we talk about libido, it's actually the desire to connect, the desire to have sensuality in our physical body, ourselves or with a partner. And so I think that also is a good benchmark, like, right, when we think about, hey, are you doing what you need, what's your plan, what are your foundations, are they serving your bone, brain, heart, and your sex and sensuality? I feel like that those are four really good areas. um
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's such an important addition. You're absolutely right. And so, you know, when we think back through, how women are going to approach this phase of life and what they're going to do, and sometimes it can feel overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, there's so much to remember, there's so much to do. And, like I said before, if I could tell myself one thing, it would be go to bed. But if we circle back to why do women tend to stay up late at night? Well, for me, it was because it's when the house is quiet and when I finally have some time to myself. I don't know, is that true for you as well?
Oh yeah. I notice the days I stay up the latest is when I have the hardest and longer day, and I just need that time to
Yeah,
actually coming back to myself, right? Coming back to be like,
exactly.
okay, right? It's almost
Yeah,
like I don't trust going to sleep will actually, like, I feel like I can't go to sleep and rest. It's almost like I need to find a certain baseline in order to sleep. Um,
yeah.
so
So if we
what are your strategies?
so if we pull that down into an awareness and reframe this phase of life, you know, again, I keep referring, so much conversation online is like this victim message of, oh my gosh, we're going through perimenopause and isn't it awful and the hot flashes and everything's terrible and well, really, if we reframe it as a time in life to re um, establish our priorities
Mm,
and focus on ourselves and giving ourselves the time and the love and the permission that we have given all the other people in our lives, for so many years. If we give ourselves that self-care and that understanding that we're worthy and we deserve that time during the day, not only after, 11 p.m. when everybody else is in bed, if we can just incorporate and bring that time forward to an earlier time frame and incorporate, the breath work, the meditation, or simply just a walk around the block or just a moment to talk to a friend, to give us ourselves those little breaks and those little moments of self-care so we don't have to stay up late at night to get that. That's kind of where at least I focus in my life, is to make sure that I'm allowing myself that time in the daylight hours.
that's so beautiful. What a beautiful way to tie everything together, right? And I think that is really what women's care is, right? Women's care,
Hmm.
vitality care is creating a vision of the desired, image in life that you want to live as a strong, smart, productive, accomplished women. Like at the end of the day, a lot of women says, what would be a great day if I feel accomplished, but accomplished in connection and and caring and nurturing and being
Yeah.
productive too. And part of the benefit is having healthy body, brain, heart, bone, and relationships, and all on the relationship with self. So love it. Thank you so much, Dr. Hawkins. I really appreciate you. There will be information more about how people can find you on Instagram and find you on your website. We hope every woman listening here is this midlife is not the end of vitality. It is a call to pay attention, raise your standard for your health, and get the kind of support that looks at the big picture. So this is not just about symptom relief, it's about building strength, clarity, resilience, and health that lasts. Thank you again for being here, Dr. Hawkins, for sharing your expertise so generously. So this is Reclaiming Vitality. I'm Dr. Lo. Thanks for being here.